Well, Maru is always one of those people that you cannot count out ever. Game number 1 of this best of 5 series has loaded up on the map Tropical Sacrifice, and spotting right here in the top right hand corner, playing with the red drones, we have Solar.
And in the bottom left, his teammates, as the blue Terran, he is Maru.
Taking a sip of coffee as well, just to warm up for this particular series. He knows that he's the favorite. He's always confident as well, right? He always looks rock solid in his gameplay, and that's one of the most difficult things to face off against. When you're a little bit nervous and you look at the other guy in the eye, right before the game starts, you notice that he is not feeling any of that stress, or at least he seems very, very comfortable. Look at him going for a command center first. That's super dangerous.
I'm pretty sure if you had a staring contest with Maru, he wouldn't actually know there was a staring contest. He'd still win.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. He's that stone cold. He never blinks. And Solar has tried his best to make him. There's been some really, again, very close matches, but ultimately still going the way of Maru. Most recently, I believe it was the Champions Cup, right, where they had a pretty good best of 5, but still, again, not ending in Solar's favor. That was just earlier this month. So Solar did manage to take a map, and again, a couple of those other games were quite close. So, I mean, if Maru wants to play very similar to that style, great. If he wants to actually mix in a bit more of what he was defeating Solar with in some other series, like TSL9, some of the more tricky openers, the drops that lead into a 2-base all-in, but then actually sometimes lead to a 3CC, that sort of thing, well, then really he can do whatever he wants, because the confidence should be at an all-time high against Solar, considering their history.
These two have been playing against each other for pretty much a decade now. Their very first match was apparently a Home Story Cup qualifier way back in 2013. And historically, Solar has won 1 out of 3 games against Maru, and obviously the majority of those wins are in the last couple of years because, well, in 2013, I don't want to do the math, but Maru was still very, very young.
Yes, he was, yes. Yeah, that's a long time ago. Solar coming in with team at the time, Samsung Con, then Samsung Galaxy, and actually doing pretty well with a couple other Zergs back in the day, winning a championship, and then unfortunately never really getting to that same height, despite occasionally coming into tournaments as a lot of people's favorite to win. And then we've said it before, we'll say it again, kind of the community agrees on the unlucky part, which is kind of weird because you can't really define unlucky to a certain degree, or we don't really want to believe in it for competition at the very least, but that's kind of what it comes down to. You just look at Solar's games sometimes and you're like, man, you're just unlucky.
One of the most historic games that these two have ever played against one another is, of course, the Nuke.
Yeah.
The one game where essentially everything was going well for Solar, and then the nuke landed on literally everything that he had. And I remember his face twitching around, his mouth falling open. It's a very memorable match, and somewhere in the back of his mind, he is definitely still has that. Yeah, he's got that stored.
You know, at least he took it with grace. He actually, I think, took it with a smile, right? He did okay afterwards. Had a bit of a rough time at Valencia, but is back at it and looking very strong indeed. Now, Maru has gone for a command center first, right, but then immediately into a lot of aggression. 2 factories are done for Maru, and we're going to be expecting that Blue Flame Hellion. The Vikings going to push away any Overlord presence that Solar might throw out. Solar's actually usually very cautious with his Overlords to begin with, actually. I think he's very aware of the time period where Terrans just throw out all of these Marine openers, specifically to hunt Overlords. So he's like, nah, I'm just not going to bother. My Overlords are really far away to begin with. So I would say he usually doesn't get a Suicide Scout, but just in case, that will deny him that. And then the Blue Flame Hellions might just show up, and Solar will have no idea.
Yeah, the Blue Flame Hellions are interesting, right? It's one of those builds that we see every once in a while. It's very uncommon. Usually when we see it these days, it's a complete all-in, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's the variant that Maru decides to go for as well. Basically what he's trying to do is he's making as many Hellions as possible. He's trying to show a regular amount right here to Solar. Solar's now, not gonna get a scout into the opponent's main base either, so he probably won't find out. Then it's going to be Banshees together with Blue Flame on the back of this.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't know about any of that. What he did see with the Ling Scout, though, was a 3rd supply depot instead of a command center, which would usually happen, 2 supply depots into command center. If it was a really fast 3rd CC, then that would actually be less supply depots, not more. So he might know that something is up, but as far as actually being prepared for this directly, that so far isn't really happening. We would expect Roaches to be a common response. Okay, all right. As I say it, Roachborn does go down, but is it too late? And Infernal Pre-Igniter is already done. Hellions probably going to pop out and try roasty-toasting all these drones in just 1 second.
I love the way he's doing this as well. He's essentially scouting ahead right here to make sure that there's no Zerglings on this attack path. He's trying to get to the other side of the map completely unscouted, and now is the time that Solar's finally going to see this. He was making drones until just a couple of seconds ago. Here's the Blue Flame.
I do not see very much that combats Blue Flame Hellions. The Lings can try and chick them up for a little bit, but they're not going to be necessarily killing them all that fast. Here come the Cavalry, here come the Queens, but they're also kind of slow, and the Hellions are going around them, trying to catch the tail end of that drone pool. But so far, the fancy footwork has worked out for Solar, as he also adds on an Evolution Chamber block to the third base, and he handles this about as gracefully as you can expect a Zerg too.
Yeah, that was absolutely, perfect crisis management right there from Solar, right? I mean, only losing 3 drones, that is not what I expected at all. Maybe there's going to be a couple of worker kills right here on the back of it. But honestly, considering he didn't know what he was going up against until the absolute last possible moment, yeah, he barely took any damage. Now, I'm giggling here because we actually have Hyperflight rotors coming up right now for Maru as well. An upgrade that we don't see all too often, although we did see it earlier on in this tournament too.
We did?
Yeah, it didn't work out so well that time, but maybe Maru can get some value out of it. But so far, yeah, he got shut down pretty hard.
He absolutely did, so it ended up really needing the Roach Swarm. But I think he was also starting to get suspicious of Mech, and now they've seen that it was Blue Flame, you do have to give Mech some credit. Because even though it's not really in the meta right now, Maru has been the one to try and even set that meta, right? So we had him go into Mech, and everyone said, oh, is Mech now a thing again? And that was towards the beginning of this map, Remember Tropical Sacrifice being one of the ones that he used it on, so it's perhaps the least surprising to see it here. So Solar is mindful of that, even though it's been a little while since Maru's really been throwing out the Mech builds. But with this opener, Maru's tendency to change things up in best ofs and just it being the map again, I'm glad that Solar, I think, is aware of it, and the Spire play is going to hopefully help deal with these Banshees. However, the speed on the Banshees does make them quite tricky to catch.
Yeah, so that's the Hyperflight rotor upgrade that is about to finish up. Well, I say that, it's a very slow upgrade actually. It takes a long time to produce. We don't really see it very often at this level of play at all. But honestly, seeing 3 Banshees after the conventional 2 is definitely already gonna give Solar a lot of info. And like you said, that Spire is, well, nearly finished at this point. That's gonna make that defense quite a bit easier. Keep in mind that the Hellions are still available as well from the early game. It's not like he threw them all away.
Which is going to help out a little bit if there's any Ling Flood to support this, but it is just the Roaches, so all the Banshees on the side of the map kind of greenlit this attack. The 1 Banshee plus the handful of Hellions is going to come back enough time to stop this from doing, I don't know if it ever do really devastating damage, because you could always pull the SCVs and lift the command center, but it certainly would have been this more awkward. Instead, Maru is handling it about as fast as possible. My question is, did Maru actually see that it was a Spire at all? He just scanned, so it looks like he was also curious what is happening. Won't actually see the Spire? I don't even know where it was put down.
I think it's inside of the, it's right over here at the 3rd base. It's in one of those locations that you don't normally expect. And Maru hasn't seen it, although it's probably something that he's assuming right now. Well, if he didn't know, he's going to find out at this point, since the units have shown up at his 3rd base. There are a bunch of Cyclones available, but you know what, Zombie Grub? I'm liking this position for Solar a lot. He's held his opponent's aggression pretty smoothly. He's now dealing a ton of damage on the other side of the map, and so far, even though Maru is the favorite going into this series, Solar is looking solid.
I mean, more than solid. This is super impressive to come out here and just handle this. It looks like he predicted Maru to do this, and I just would not say he actually did. I think he just read the question marks and was able to deduce it down enough to say, I think this is a good plan. And he was right. You know, maybe a little bit of guesswork has come in here, but the execution on the defense, the swiftness of the follow-up, the confidence that is being shown here from Solar, all combining together to get him this victory. And yes, a lot of it is the surprise mutas, but again, Solar could have died with those Blue Flame Hellions. Yeah,
the alternative would have maybe been like, well, even more Banshee play or even a Battle Cruiser, right? Since Maru is already going for all of this crazy stuff, it would be uncommon, but I think the Muta play or the Spire play in general would pretty much always work out right here for the Zerg player. He's hunting down the final units right now of Solar. That front door is wide open. GG is called. And it's our Zerg who obtains the victory in game number 1.
Very dominant victory, too.
Yeah, that Blue Flame Hellion defense was sick, though.
It absolutely
Maru was playing that beautifully, leading that pack of Hellions with a couple other Hellions, just the conventional amount. Showing up at the absolute last possible moment. I mean, there were still drones coming up seconds before the Hellions drove onto the creep. And then the Evo Chamber blocks, the Queen positioning, we're going to see it in the replay right over here. That was really, really nicely done by Solar.
He used the Lings about as well as he could, which
that
is
Queen on the ramp too, by the way.
Yeah, to make sure they didn't go in the main, because that would have also been extra problematic. But using the Lings to stop them from getting anywhere close to the actual drones, and then having the Queens also kind of body block, as well as starting to take some of them out towards the tail end. It was just beautiful last-second crisis management that Solar, I would say, usually does well on, but it does feel like he'd do this, and then he would die to the Banshee or something like that. I'd say like a past Solar would have that happen, but again, it was him who surprised Maru with the amount of mutas, which Maru just was totally unprepared for. Only a couple of Cyclones, which you have to micro perfectly to take down that many mutas.
Okay, so Maru starting off this best of 5 series with a cheeky game right here on Tropical Sacrifice. Normally a map that is pretty good for his very defensive laid-back approach that he usually likes to go for. He gave it a shot. He doesn't seem all two-faced. He turns on his monitor right now. You see that? Maybe he was playing with his monitor off.
Yeah, he was playing with his monitor off. That was
just playing on sound alone.
Yeah. I really wonder how far a guy like Maru could go in that situation.
He's like, all right, guys, I'm turning on the screen. Let's go.
Yeah, now it's serious. Now it is very serious. That was the map that Maru gave up in their most recent best of 5, so perhaps Maru is just generally uncomfortable there. He's got that out of the way. We'll see how this best of 5 develops as we now spawn into Moondance. In the top left for Onside Gaming, he is the Red Zerg, Solar.
And his opponent going for a very aggressive game number 1. He is Maru.
I'm going to be a bit aggressive here as well. It's not going to be anything proxied, guys. It is going to be that forward wall. Moondance has a rather small choke here.
Is it going to be double barracks, you think?
I think so, yeah. And then into 3 or 5 Reapers, which he's going to be able to control a bit of the opener with. You don't expect this to do a whole lot of damage necessarily, but if a Zerg player does mess up for whatever reason, just a little bit, it can be a very annoying start. Like, it's generally annoying, but especially if you mess up, you kind of shaking your head as a Zerg, like, this stuff is... Come on, like, this is old school, right? This is beyond winning BlizzCon. Why are you doing this? But it gives Maru that control of the opener, which I think he always likes, but it's a little less dedicated than the actual proxy racks. And then, of course, on this map, you have the natural wall and a back third base. So you can develop this into a very fast third command center, even though it looks committed on the aggression front.
Yeah, the wall off right here at the front is very difficult to pull off in the other spawn location because of the way that the attachments to the barracks would end up.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of games where those add-ons just continuously get denied, and it turns out with Stimpack, the game is pretty difficult to play. None of that, though, is going to be a problem right here for Maru. He committed to this right from the get-go. Another advantage as well of this opener is if Zerg wanted to go for something really aggressive, well, you're still producing out of 2 barracks here early on, which can be super nice.
And you're scouting a lot, right? So if Solar were to think, oh, I'm going to be so clever, I'm going to actually roach attack this guy, or throws up his hands and says, I'm going to roach attack this guy, Maru would be able to scout it, buy time against it with grenades, and then build a bunker, which would usually do the trick. So I do expect Maru to go into the fast third CC follow-up. I believe this is exactly what he did in that Champions Cup tournament. But there is that alternative that Maru has thrown out, where he's opened up with something aggressive, showed it to be greedy, and then made it offensive, or the opposite, right? So I'm going to guess it's the 3CC, but there is that option that he's playing into their most recent best of, and actually does like a 2 base attack.
We'll have to wait a little bit longer to find out exactly what the follow-up from Maru is going to be. Solar, on the other end, just going for the typical Zerg approach where he is just trying to defend. He's got a good amount of links available. Link speed is going to finish up. Metabolic boost in about 10 seconds as well. I like that one Reaper sticking around on the high ground for a little bit longer just to get a few more shots in. But at this point, the Marine production has started up, so no additional Reapers coming out of those barracks. That means that Solar with link speed is going to be able to take this third hatchery pretty easally.
Why is he getting a bunker on his high ground?
Maybe he's a little bit concerned for some sort of aggression here. I'm not exactly sure.
That actually is kind of funny. I guess the third hatch, it was a bit late.
Yeah, I think that was a response, though, to seeing the Reapers, right? He's kind of forcing the delayed version of this.
Exactly. I think what happened last time was that Solar managed to sneak the drone by the Reapers, so he got kind of away with that. But this is more so what the Reapers would also usually guarantee, which is that the drone can't sneak out. You actually would deny the third hatchery. So, I mean, that's the only thing I can see that's a little bit suspicious. And Zerg players really don't want to take that back hatchery because it's a half base, and it also doesn't facilitate the creep as well as the forward third.
Yeah, maybe Maru a little bit suspicious of some early game push right here coming out of Solar. Despite the Reapers, he couldn't scout the entire main base. Goes for the safety, well, the safety piggy bank, right? He can always salvage it a little bit later on if he wants to, get 75 minerals back. The third command center is going to finish up here in just a moment, and he's actually already salvaged it at this point. Decides to now transition towards a Widowmine drop. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think he's so safe that it really makes a lot of sense. There's not much that Solar can do to punish someone who's going to be throwing all the units offensively. Harassment units, right? So harassment units, technically you can deal with queens and drone pools, and when the armory's on, I guess, spore crawlers, but it'd be very dangerous to do so, right? So like, I'm going to deal with it this way, and then I'm going to Baneling flood the guy who's walled off on effectively 2 bases, right? Which actually is third in the back, so I think it just encourages Maru's potential to get a lot of damage done and continue kind of hitting Solar in that annoying spot, which I think eventually does get to a lot of Zerg players. It's just usually Maru does this when he's already up a game or something.
If you've ever wondered what the players look at while they're playing this game, this is what about 400, 500-ish actions per minute looks like. These guys are very fast. Believe it or not, they can only look at one thing at once. Oftentimes with the multitasking, it feels like they have multiple monitors, but that's not the case. Widowmine drop going into the natural right now. Very quick reaction speed right there from Solar, pulling the drones away and not taking a lot of damage. Maybe the Widowmine in the main base, though, can get something done.
He tries to target it, but quick enough pull away there from Solar. So far so good on the defense, but Widowmines are pretty common in any matchup. They might be handled perfectly.
Yeah.
The first 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. But then they aren't, and suddenly it snowballs from there, and Maru's going to try and kind of cause that effect, encourage that effect, but even some Reaper micro. I mean, you got to really keep in mind from the Zerg's perspective, they're thinking, please God, don't let me get 10, 20 drones killed, but also I have to defend, and Maru's probably macroing like a god behind this. So this has got to be really, really clean to be good for the Zerg.
Maru hitting a small little supply block right there, and Solar, honestly, so far playing a really clean series. He's once again finding himself in a good spot. I'm expecting a 4th hatchery, but actually just now started up. Got a little bit lucky right there in the commentary. Love to see that. Anyways, he decided to go for the 12 o'clock position, and it's difficult for Maru to keep track of exactly what is going on, right? You brought up the pocket base a couple times already. Maybe Zergs don't like to take it early, but it's always an option, especially if you want to go for, well, like a macro hatchery, right? You may as well take that in the pocket base location instead.
Can certainly be the case. A lot of times we also do see Zerg players take 4th and 5th, and if they have to get it canceled due to a drop, something like that, they are kind of okay with it. They still need to worry about that larva. But Solar, I think, has, in his matches against Maru at the very least, if not his entire ZVT, has really not opted for that play, the fast 5th as well. Oh, jeez Louise, okay.
That was almost about 18 drones going down right there, in case you're wondering why we started shouting, but worked out right there for Solar.
Yes, exactly. Anyway, so he's been focusing on just trying to get the 1 base up and hoping that works out better against a guy like Maru, but already kind of failing in that regard, having to cancel a 4th base that was already a fair bit done, and then having, again, no backup to it. So this really can't offset a Zerg player when it comes to that larva. Suddenly you just don't have enough. You're going for Baneling, very larva intensive. That's the type of snowball, again, that Maru is looking for, because everything he's done has that potential for a snowball.
Yeah, exactly. He's trying to go for that tempo lead, and he's gonna try to deny this base one more time here. Solar already forced to cancel it earlier. He's got to be transitioning towards Hydras, and then eventually, way down the line, probably also Lurkers. They are capable of really shutting down that snowball advantage that Maru is trying to go for here, but for now, honestly, I'm not minding this position for Solar here at all. It was a little bit better a few minutes ago, but up to this point, he's been playing a stellar series for sure.
Yes. Yeah, it kind of is similar to the last time they played here, though, just a few weeks ago, where I would say Solar did really great job not letting Maru's playstyle get to him, and even doing the correct balance of taking it seriously but not over-defending. And then he got to Lurkers, but he was already kind of far behind in regards to the hatchery count, as well as creep spread. And I would say the creep spread is okay so far, because Maru got these base snipes, so he hasn't really focused on clearing up the creep, more in the midsection of the map.
All right, now finally that pocket expansion is coming up. Forced to cancel. He's going to remake that. A couple minerals here and there is what Maru is gaining with these cancels. He's setting up a lot of multi-pronged harassment here, but the Zerg's still in a pretty nice defendable location as he's slowly transitioning towards more and more upgrades. Maru in that department, though, is a little bit ahead with his own 2-2, but Solar's not too far behind. Now here, once again, do we have an engagement? Widowmine's constantly retargeting, and he does eventually get a nice detonation right here.
Yeah, Solar, this is going to be the difficult spot if you can't get that creep up as well. Maru's going to continue just hitting it. You see the little line of blue ants coming to the north, as Maru knows he can continue to pressure this spot. Solar's not going to break him soon enough to stop it. He's also got that drop on the backside, continuing to deny what is supposed to be a very safe pocket base. It's not safe at all. And then here comes those Widow Mines, which actually haven't been a part of the main engagement for us as, I guess, so much. Now there's 5 of them, well, 4, okay? They're going to continue increasing, right? He's got those 2 factories. He does have Drilling Claws on the way. It's going to get more brutal.
Yeah, this is looking much better right now, though, for Maru. Constantly trying to force that Zerg army off creep, and that's why he's denying that creep spread as well to the best of his abilities. Hydras at this point, though, do have their ranged upgrade, if I'm not mistaken, and that does allow him to outrange those Widow Mines a little bit easier. And that may help out with the defense, but honestly, Maru is not slowing down on the aggression right here. He needs to be very careful against those Banelings. A lot of them just finished up, but once more, he's backing off creep. Ready to, well, load them all up. Unless
Solar gets us around and some really great Baneling hits, we are going to be seeing just too much of a picking apart. Maru's not messing up. He's not getting too friendly fired by his own Widow Mines. I mean, it's a chance that he overcommits, and if you are rallying as a Terran player and you actually lose the front-end battle, then it's a real retreat. You have to retreat fully. But, you know, if you're taking these engagements, you can always stay here. And Solar, he's not getting any farther ahead. At this point, he's also not clearing up some of these Widow Mines, so they're going to get the second shot. More Marauders are going to make this a tankier, chonkier composition. And, of course, Maru is going to be prepared with Ghost if Lurkers were to make their way out.
Yeah, the only way that I can really see him stopping this aggression here is with Lurkers. Instead, he decided to go for the Hive for now, so he's not going to be able to get to that tech route anytime soon. Maru right now, though, creating a chokehold on that base. GG is with that cold as well, and he evens up the score.
Very similar game to, again, the most recent best of 5 on Moondance, actually so far on the series, because while Tropical Sacrifice did play out differently as a game, it was the only map that Solar was able to take. So, I mean, I'm bringing that up because I think it is important, but I also think that's something that Solar might be thinking of, right? Like, oh man, sure. this is turning out exactly like down to the spawn positions and where he ended up actually beating me on that 4th base, and that can really weigh on the guy.
Okay, so we've got 2 games in this best of 5 series out of the way. We now know how good these players truly are. Score has been evened up once again. It's not like Solar is getting really overwhelmed, though. I mean, eventually, that map is obviously not easy for Zerg either. Eventually, he found himself in a rough spot there. A little bit more creep spread in that direction would probably make the defense quite a bit easier. Yeah, this dropping here was super annoying. This was the beginning of that tempo lead, right, that Maru was trying to establish for himself, and you pointed out the snowball effect. Well, this is what he ended up with.
Yeah. Incredibly fast style to play. You know, very few Terrans can really keep this up. It's not that Solar is innately slower, I suppose, or that he'd die in the same fashion against some of the Terrans already knocked out of this bracket. It's just, Maru really is this fast. He'll continue doing this even when it looks like phase 1, 2, and 3 haven't really done all that much. That 4th phase, the 5th phase, will still end up killing a Zerg player no matter how good they are. So, as you appropriately said, tempo is really a big thing here, and Maru just had it and kept it for the entirety of the second game.
All right, game number 3 is going to be loading up here in just a moment. Solar thinking about his games as well. He doesn't look too comfortable, right? Every time the camera switches to Solar, he's like, yeah, I mean, I'm trying, but that's the face I'm getting, at least. I'm trying, but I'm not exactly sure what I'm supposed to do.
It feels like the face of a human, though. And Maru's kind of...
Programmers are human?
A robot. Well, Maru's a robot.
Okay.
There you go. All right, guys. Game number 3 is going to happen on Data C. In the bottom left, now with the series tied up against him, he is Solar.
And his opponent, one of the greatest of all time, in blue, he is Maru.
No doubts, looking to prove that he is in fact the greatest of all time by possibly winning this tournament and possibly against the likes of Cyril.
That's going to spark that debate again.
Yes, it is. Yeah, absolutely.
We've had this debate only every week for the last 5 years or so.
Yes, and it's at one point, well, I mean, it still goes along with like, well, who's won a GSL? But it was also at one point, you know, oh, well, Maru Solo hasn't really happened in like a good best of 5 plus and offline, so we'll never know. And Well, that has happened a few times at this point.
Yeah, they are in this particular tournament as well on the opposite ends of the bracket. So if Maru ends up moving on over here, there is a chance that Serral versus Maru can happen in the grand finals. Now that would be an absolute banger to go out on.
You'd think, but we said that for TSO.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's happened several times.
Exactly. Yeah, but of course we're not there yet. Both of these players potentially facing Hero in the next series, and I would love either one of those matchups, either Hero's PVT or his PVZ. Does seem like
well, Hero had a strong preference.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did not want to play against Maru. He was like, yep, no, I'll take Solar any day of the week. But Maru, not entirely sure if I want to be facing him in a semifinal. So whoever ends up winning this series is going to be facing off against Hero tomorrow in the second semis, actually. And in the first semis, we're going to be having Bunny going up against Serral.
Yeah, I guess we're just looking at who's going to fill out the second spot for either Terran or Zerg. Still all balanced.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, yeah, we have one Terran, one Zerg, one Protoss in the semi so far.
Perfect. As David Kim intended.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, exactly. The guy who actually stopped balancing StarCraft 2 at some point. We always accredit it to him. Factory coming in here for Maru on one of his most... well, I would say normal opener, but the first game was totally normal until he added on that second factory. Last game was the real offset one with the wall coming down, which I think he does do on another map, but I can't recall it right now. For now, it's just the Marine opener.
Yeah. Not getting a whole lot of scouting information in this particular game, but that is A-okay right here from Maru, who's going to have a bunch of units out, and you know what? They're going Overlord hunting.
Yes, they are.
It's a bit of a dangerous moment. If you're not too familiar with StarCraft 2, you might imagine that Zerglings are already out here, but Solar maximizing the drone income.
The thing is that I actually brought this up, right? That Solar is really cautious with his Overlords, and he doesn't seem to ever shy away from it, even if he plays 7 games in a row where the Terran doesn't do this. He's like, no, no, no. I know you're going to do it. And that is the case here. He's not going to lose any Overlords, even the one that could sometimes be caught on that third base. He's already pulled back. So now this turns into a 4-Marine hit squad that doesn't really have a chance to kill a hatchery.
They're very ambitious, though. You got to hand it to them. I like that they have decided to march all the way across the map. Solar not taking the bait, by the way. He's not going to make a dozen Zerglings here. Well, he's making a couple right now because Link Speed is finishing. This is the conventional timing, but he didn't start making them any sooner than he originally had planned. And I like this cheeky little double prompt aggression. Although, you know what? One of the Hellions gets sniped right away.
Yeah, knowing there's not particularly fast speed, try to get those 2 Hellions in there.
Oh, once again. Beautiful. He's playing Warcraft 3 here.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And that wasn't supposed to happen that way, but Maru probably unfazed for the most part. His real second plan was going to these Widowmine drops with the Armory once again, starting that nice and early. They never got a super effective shot last game, but it is going to continue applying the pressure. And actually goes right back into Hellion, so... I mean, could he do a Hellbat attack after dropping off the Widowmines?
That would be rough after losing 2 of those Hellions for practically free here. Now the Zerglings are in the mineral line as well, and... well, Maru may have all the most beautiful plans in the world, but he still has to deal with his opponent's stuff as well. It can be very easy to be very caught up with your own strategy and then forget that there's, hey, actually another person that I have to also play against. But here's the Widowmine drop headed towards the natural. This is not something that Solar sees until right about now.
Right. He probably was thinking more so about the Hellbats once he saw that Armory, but he was paying attention to the mini-map. The Spore Crawler here is going to help detect, so he at least was a little suspicious of something needing a Spore Crawler.
Beautiful.
And these Widowmines are not going to get much damage done. Well, that was pretty good.
Yeah, they got a couple Zerglings though, but that is okay here for Solar. I mean, preferably he loses 1 Zergling against each of those, but he is totally okay with not losing half of his worker count at this point. As he transitions right now towards the lair, we did already see a Roach Worm, but he canceled that one.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I thought maybe he thought it was a Armory for Hellbats, but then I think he did quickly say, oh no, it's Widowmines. And whether that was when they hit or not, I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, it is going to go into bio here for Maru, as Solar, does not go into Roach, is not going to play that style. And the Liberator is going to come in when the Spore Crawler still isn't in the anti-Liberator position, so maybe he gets a couple of kills.
Yeah, he's going to try his best, but the Liberator is going to be under harassment right here from the Queen, and then the Spore Crawler has already moved on over. This is more so a nuisance than anything else. It's not combined with anything, really. So he'll probably come back for more a bit later. Obviously, repairing that unit up is not going to be free either. But 2 drones, hey, it's better than absolutely nothing with that unit here for the time being.
Yeah. I feel like that was a 20-second moment where both pros knew exactly what was supposed to happen, and then that's exactly what happened. I move the Spore, you get a couple of drones because you target fire.
You know the dance. We're gonna dance it anyways.
Exactly.
The music was coming on. We gotta go.
Well, this is a bit of a weird twist. Double Hellbats into the medevac. Not really, you know, something you see anymore.
It's interesting, for sure. We have Solar, by the way, transitioning towards Banelings and Baneling speed right now, as well as the 1-1 upgrades. So both players transitioning towards a conventional mid-game here, but the early game has been a little bit unorthodox, for sure. This double Hellbat drop, getting a drone. Okay.
Does he have 4 Hellions in total? No, so that is literally all the ones he had. Because I was going to say a quadruple Hellion drop might have been more effective there.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised, but yeah, he decided to go for the Hellbats here instead. I guess he already had the armory done. He's like, you know what, these units are left over from earlier. Maybe if he did have the additional 2 Hellions still available, he would have actually brought them instead. But anyways, he now scans the opponent's natural. He sees the Hydralisks then. He now knows exactly what he's playing against. And this is Solar setting himself up for a nice little macro game.
Yeah.
Historically speaking, Data Sea has always been our big macro map in Terran versus Zerg. We've seen a lot of like 45-minute games on this particular map, so...
Well, I'm not sure this one's going to be 45 minutes. Maru is not opting for a 4th command center. He is instead going for an additional 3 barracks, so a bit of a classic 8 racks. All-in is always a weird term for it, but it does dedicate yourself onto a lot of mid-game aggression. You don't have that second factory with the splash that helps get you into a later stage of the game. Obviously, you cut on your economy. Your upgrades are still pretty okay, though, but we'll see if Maru fully commits to this, because I have seen some players do this and then still go into a kind of fast 4th command center.
Yeah,
but if you really do commit,
something done, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he's gonna go for a big old drop, and that might be a different way indeed to play. Starting things off here, about 8 minutes. Solar does react rather fast, so he should be. Yeah, he's totally fine actually.
Yeah, he shuts that down easy peasy. The main problem right now for Solar, though, is going to be that follow-up. So you brought up the additional barracks. They're going to finish up their reactors right now, and that means that Maru is going to be able to pump out a ton of those Marines all in one go. Is he going to wait, though, until Tuto is done, or is he just going to continuously be aggressive here?
He's going to continuously be aggressive. He did add 3 additional reactors, so we know that he's also been playing a little bit more with the mass bio style. So not an ARAX all-in, but still not going for a very fast second factory. But with the additional reactors, no tech labs, I don't think it's quite that. I do think he is committing quite a bit to the mid-game aggression, but a little bit more of a backup than what we'd say is a very, very committed 8-Rax attack. And with 2-2 upgrades still on the way too, like it really would just be the lack of tanks and Widowmine production that would hurt if this aggression doesn't really work out.
Yeah, so he has started up a 4th command center just before... Or sorry, after the barracks, whereas in a conventional game we would normally see them coming up after the 4th CC. Small little deviation, but it's going to allow Maru more units right here in the mid-game and slightly less economy. He might be able to use that as well. Yeah, Solar has been scouting. He hasn't seen much, so he may very well assume that everything is normal now. There's a huge clump of Marines, and they do get it, but at the cost of a ton of those units as well.
Yeah, hard to say that was quite worth it, because you also have to really fully evacuate at that point, right? You don't get to, you don't have the follow-up army behind it that continues to hammer that point. It was all the way to the left, actually, which didn't really get much done.
Lurker's now coming up for Solar as well. He's gone into the Hive upgrade, and he's not slowing down with his own tech either. So despite the fact that Maru may very well be planning on playing a more aggressive mid-game here, he probably wanted to go for an all-out attack with 2-2. He decides to now, well, he can still do it, but it's going to be much harder here with Solar having a good amount of creep spread available already and making that transition towards those high-tech units.
I would actually say if Maru doesn't get something done with this particular push, it'd be very favorable for Solar. Because if he pushes this back, right, and Maru is sent packing like, oh, okay, I guess we're going to go into the late game. He's starting his transition to the late game still a bit later. With all the choices he's made, where Solar is preparing for the late game, with the Lurker Den actually finishing, his Hive also done, could start the upgrades, but first has to deal with this attack. Also trying to get a Ling run by in, but Maru was prepared for that.
Yeah, I feel like you almost have to give up that hatchery and just go for a full-on counterattack instead. I mean, it's going to be very difficult to break those siege tanks right there on the right. He's maybe going to try with Zerkins coming in from the side as well, and that's exactly what he does. Suddenly, the Zerg army is collapsing on top of this bio force, and it turns out he's got more than enough to shut down this drop.
Very nicely done there by Solar, making sure to come in for us around, kind of negate the tanks a little bit, and then also force those Marines into an awkward corner that they, of course, had to pick up from. Now, Maru still has a cleverly placed tank on the backside behind a little bit of that brush as well, so that's going to really help out. He has played this map very well strategically with the map placement of his tanks. That's actually been really impressive to watch, but it has been difficult killing Solar on this map. This is what happened exactly again last time they played on Data C. Maru's not going to give up on the aggression. He's got a couple of tanks here to help anchor him, but Solar, once again, ready to go. He doesn't have as much creep spread this time around, but it is going to be, I think, enough Zerg that Maru's going to have to respect that and get out once again.
Yeah, and the next attack wave that Maru decides to go for as well is going to be faced with Vipers. Vipers are going to be super powerful in these engagements. If they can shut down the Marines temporarily, they can force them to back off. If they can throw a blinding cloud or maybe even some abductions on top of those siege tanks, that would be absolutely lethal. Maru at this point doesn't know of the Vipers yet either. Plus, on top of this, Solar's actually transitioning towards proper late-game units. He's going Adrenal Glands, he's got +3 armor coming up. He's got the option to transition towards Lurkers with Seismic Spines. I think Solar is in a fantastic spot.
Exactly. Now that he's dealt with that probably most fearsome part of Maru's aggression, I think he's going to be in a really good spot. Ability to get Lurkers upgraded as well as Vipers. It's going to make Maru without Ghosts a little bit less powerful. So Maru's going to try and find him out of position, but Solar really seems to be identifying how Maru is going to play this out kind of pacing-wise. He was totally prepared for the 2 medevacs off to the left and is once again prepared on the right side. Blinding Cloud taking out 1 of 3 tanks, another one on the second, and once again Maru with that last second split is going to try to at least keep something alive as he retreats, but it's not going to be as much as he was hoping for.
Okay, so here we go. Solar is very deep off creep. That spread has been denied quite nicely here by Maru, but that's really all he's got done. I mean, worst case scenario right now for Solar, you morph in a couple Lurkers. That's exactly what he does. Maybe, though, they take a while to finish. Maybe this is the opportunity that Maru is looking for. He's going to need a little bit of time. The Banelings are going to finish up in a moment.
Yeah, those are the Banelings on the way.
Yeah.
Still no Lurkers. Some Links coming on the right side. Help those Banelings actually make the connections without the Marines to cover the tanks. The tanks are easy enough to take care of. Maybe not with the Banelings. That might not be on purpose, but it is something he's taken care of. I think Maru, you know, it's never really been an entirely full 100% retreat, so he has been able to take advantage of Solar not having a lot of that creep spread and not quite being able to fit in those Lurkers, but it really seemed like it was a matter of time, unless Solar really messed up, and he did not. So he is going to help himself now by getting those Lurkers. Now the 9 Lurkers on the field, soon to have both of their upgrades, will be able to work against this army fantastically, because the Vipers will take out anything that is problematic, like a tank or like a Liberator.
Yeah, you can abduct those units inside of those spines right here as well. There you go. Of those Lurkers, abducting whatever you can as the Terran is trying to disengage. Now Solar's like, you know what, you wanted to fight, come back here. This is the problem here for Maru, who can't engage into this army with just the units that he's got. He really needs to make a transition towards, at the bare minimum, a bunch of Marauders.
Right.
But preferably something like Ghosts, maybe even Liberators as well. Okay, he does start up a group of Ghosts right now, but now the Lurkers are on the offensive. It's going to be a while until he's got enough to actually shut this down. There's still Lurkers around?
Kind of, yeah. The Lurkers are either going to surround this army, they're going to have to pick up, or either way, they're going to be on top of the reinforcement line and also hammering away at that economy. Those 3rd CC SCVs are probably just dead as Maru is focusing on the left side,
GG.
of which he can't do anything about. So yeah, GG. Solar holds strong against Maru's aggression and ends the game with the help of those Lurkers. I was really surprised that Maru took so long to transition. I mean, he had a 5th base on the way, but those Ghosts were seriously last second.
Yeah, very stellar game right here from Solar. Once again, though, showing us that he is a world-class Zerg, and even though a lot of people would be favoring Maru in this matchup, Solar is playing an incredibly good series so far. Definitely showing us that he is, yeah, capable of taking on Maru in a head-on fight. He didn't do anything tricky. It was Maru going for, well, the more unconventional decisions, like, for example, having the additional barracks done before transitioning towards a 4th command center. And in the end, Solar just held that easy peasy, I don't want to say.
Yeah.
He held it, and, well, he ended up with a much better army here in the end.
I would say the very first engagement, that full surround, was maybe the closest we got to easy peasy. And it was also the most important. Without that strong starting point that Maru could then rally into, you just didn't have that same kind of restriction that we felt for Solar in the last game, where it was like, okay, maybe you take an okay engagement, you get him retreating a little bit, but okay, wait, no, his reinforcements are already here, and he still has those splashed units that are giving you a lot of trouble. In that case, it was pretty much forced to evacuate about, let's say, 75%, which gave Solar consistent breathing room to get to what he needed to, more Banelings, more Hydras, and then actually Lurkers.
I love seeing the cheerfuls out in the crowd.
I don't know what that is.
I'm not exactly sure what we're looking at, but sure, let's go with that. Could be anything. Anyways, love to see all the people coming out. I've seen a couple of pictures as well on the StarCraft subreddit of how packed exactly it is over there. Additional chairs coming out to give everyone a chance to watch the amazing StarCraft that we've got. Anyways, match point right here for the Zerg player in the top right-hand corner of Waterfall, and his nickname is Solar.
In the bottom left for Onside Gaming, it's not just a nickname. It is his name. It's Maru.
Now, we've talked about it a little bit already throughout this event, but Waterfall is one of those maps that initially was considered to be very good for Terrans, but over time, Zergs have figured out how to play this map, and these days it's actually a little bit Zerg favored. Wouldn't be surprised if Solar's feeling pretty good going into this particular map right now. It's probably his map pick, right? That's the only thing that really makes sense here.
With the way that it's played out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might have been.
I think it should have been.
Well, yeah, it is slightly favored overall. I mean, it still comes down to how they execute the build orders. And in this case, Maru is going to choose this map to once again go for that double Rax wall off that can lend itself to 3 Reapers bare minimum, but then sometimes 5. So this is going to be a lot similar to the second game, which, of course, Maru won. And it's going to be even harder for Solar to hold against the aggression because the map is smaller. So
yeah, those units will just simply show up a couple seconds earlier. Doesn't sound like it would be a big problem, but it definitely adds up at this level of play. You think there's a chance, though, because of that, that maybe Solar is the one that's gonna go for a little bit of aggression as well? I mean, hiding anything from those Reapers would be tough, but he's got a bit of wiggle room right now, and the map rush distance is pretty short.
I still don't know if it's really a good idea to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, Maru might also, again, change it up from his what he played on Moondance, right? So Moondance and Waterfall, similar rush distance, but the way that you expand kind of to each other is a bit different. And then also the biggest difference is there's no backbase. So it's less likely that Maru goes for straight up 3rd CC, but I think the last time he played on this, he did still go for 3rd CC. So even though it doesn't have the safety one, he still went away with it. And yeah, that might be happening once again. Yeah,
triple CC benchy openers are still pretty safe overall.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised if that's going to be something that we're going to see out of Maru here. Though he's been favoring that Liberator play quite a bit as well, which is kind of cool to see. Something that we didn't have a whole lot over, well, the course of 2022 in general. It's one of those units that fades in and out of popularity. It trades spots with the benchy. Now we're seeing a mix of the two once again, which is kind of cool. Hey, you got a drone.
Oh, there you go. And again, just sticking at 3 Reapers, not too committed there. So it really is just the question of like additional barracks, really trying to surprise Solar or something different, or is it going to be the 3rd CC, which is what he opted for last time they played on this map, if I remember correctly. So they do have the little bit of aggression in the main base. Again, all that scouting coming down too. Not going to be able to stop any 3rd base from coming along, because that is already halfway done. But if you get a Queen, that would be kind of cool for Maru.
That Queen is running dangerously low. Link speed is about, well, 20 seconds or so, I would guess, away from finishing here. That's going to make that defense a little bit easier. Solar, though, wisely bringing that Queen as far back as possible, going for the most conservative creep tumor I've seen in a while. That one's not going to get picked up here by the Reapers for sure. But most importantly here for Solar, the Queen also stays alive.
Right, yeah. I'll lose that one. Because he did get the unfavorable spawn position for these add-ons, he chooses also kind of a safe option in line with the creep tumor, which is going for the supply depot wall off and then having his most important add-on, the tech lab, getting the stim and the combat shields. This is safe. I mean, just in case Solar tried to, like, fatally bust him or get a couple of roaches over there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. If you're going to lose those upgrades, that would make it a little bit trickier, so he decides to back up.
Yeah, it's going to be the additional barracks. So gonna go for the mid-game aggression more so again. I am actually kind of second-guessing myself as whether this is what he did last time or not, but to not focus too much on it, it is the aggression. It's gonna be kind of, it really will make, I think it might seem like it is 3CC with this Banshee coming out too. Not something you usually see when they're adding on a bunch of barracks.
He's not going to be able to scout much, Solar that is, so there is a chance that he's going to be caught off guard against the amount of Marines that Maru is producing here. But we saw him in a similar situation earlier in this series as well, and even in the moments of crisis, Solar seemed to keep his head cool, and honestly, seeing this amount of Marines here is quite nice already. At the very least, he knows that he's going to need to have some units out on the battlefield, and that's exactly what he does. He's actually producing a lot of Links right now.
Right. Yeah, taking it very seriously. Only at 45 drones right now.
He's still making more.
That's a pretty terrible drone count. That's not
Is he going to go for the other side of the map? I mean, it'd be very difficult to pull off, but he's got non-stop Zergling production here for a while.
If he's thinking that he's going to receive a Terran attack and then demolish it, he'd think he'd be right about that. The problem is, if Maru isn't doing this, if he isn't committing, right, then that's a problem. If he is committing and then he saves the attack and still is able to go into like his own third CC, then Solar still has a huge bump in the road, which is that he dedicated so much to not building an economy.
Yeah, there's 2 more barracks on the back of this as well from Maru, so he's certainly got something in store for us. Now that Cloak Banshee shows up, so this is a weird Banshee, and I kind of like it. Normally we'd be seeing something like medevac production here, but instead we have a Banshee slowly working away at those drones and getting a good amount of damage in. There's no lair, there's no spore crawlers, this is completely unscouted. And, well, Solar had a good amount of workers, but he's going to lose quite a few of them.
I mean, you're right to point out this delayed the medevacs, right? This could have been maybe even a faster drop to start things off, as opposed to Banshees, or just a faster push. But opting for the Banshee kind of works out. 10 drones are killed. It's going to be able to help out with the attack or the defense. Even scouting run-bys is really helpful. And now Solar, who already cut drones to prepare for an attack that didn't really come, and I think he was hoping it would, also loses more drones. So just the way that the races work, right? When the Zerg play is kind of boppity, bumpy, it's like drone, Zerg, no wait, drones, oh, army. It just looks really bad for them. So the Terran usually, if they're like, you know what, no, I'm not going to attack, I'm going to go macro, we don't really criticize that as much. But let's see if Solar can continue to play as good as he has been, to be up 2-1, kind of recover from this awkwardness as Maru does start his double medevac aggression.
Yeah, he needs to get a lot of work done with this, though, because even though Solar lost a lot of units earlier and he's lost a bunch of drones, he's got a very good economy already. We still don't have a third command center, do we?
No, he's very dedicated on 2 bases.
Yeah.
It's just that, so okay, yes, Solar is right that Terran is going to be aggressive to him. He is right to make an army. Then again, the problem of being Zerg, you want to get those drones out first and foremost, as much as you can without dying, and then build that big army. If you're kind of doing both at the same time, even though mentally, like, you're like, no, I prepare for the attack, don't I win? You're going to peter out more than the Terran player will. So that is the concern if Solar runs out of steam, basically.
All right, well, we're going to have to find out exactly what will go down with this fight. Maru needs to deal a significant amount of damage in order to justify his attack. Solar does not have Bane speed, and he does not have 1-1 done, so he's actually a little bit late when it comes to those upgrades here, at least, you know, as far as his own preference goes. But he's got a good amount of economy. He's now setting up a huge run-by as well, or maybe a surround on the right side of the map.
I think he's going to try and go for a surround. There's currently 4 medevacs, though, so if Maru picks up on this, he could pick up, literally without a 6, actually, so he could pick up most of his army. He will lose the tanks, but all these Marines staying alive would be a huge problem. The lack of centrifugal hooks is just too impactful on this map. It's just too impactful in this match up, and that is going to be it. Maru tying the series up. We're going to get that game 5. I think that really does come down to the Zerg problem, you know? Zerg's gonna commiserate here and be like, yeah, I've done that before. I've over-prepared at the wrong moment and then been under-prepared for the real thing. And so in that case, it's like, yeah, the economy was hurt. That wasn't gonna really help. It was also the delayed upgrades for so long, especially
I love the Banelings right there, just kind of walking off. Creepers like, hey guys, where'd the Marines go? We heard there were Marines here. Turns out the Marines were already long gone as they were fighting in the natural of the Zerg instead. Yeah, Solar caught with his pens down right there. Not in a great position, and without Baneling speed and without a really good amount of creep spread, that is super difficult to clean up. So that one hero Banshee, the awkward Banshee, which is one Banshee with Cloak, getting a lot of work in. And well, it joined in again as well with the main fight here.
The off timing, you know, no one expects the off timing Banshee. Single Cloak Banshee.
There's the Banelings. I love these guys.
The Banelings tried. They really did. Did not work out whatsoever. So Solar just not able to read the pacing of that map particularly well. He's going to have to give that one up, and we head to Game 5 on Inside and Outs, which they was going to be Game 5 again on the other best of 5 they played. So we finally get to see this come out. And now the question is, does Solar cause the upsets, or does Maru do what he does best, which is look like he's about to falter and then win the entire thing?
The other quarterfinals were a little bit more one-sided, but our final match for the day turns out to be an absolute nail-biter. I think it's very difficult to decide who's going to win this before going into the game, so I hope that that map is going to load up very quickly here. Inside and Out, usually a pretty aggressive map, so we'll see what these guys have in store for us as jumping into our final map of the day.
That's exactly right. Nothing else after this, guys. Solar versus Maru. It all comes down to this. Who goes on to face Hero in the semifinals and potentially a shot at the finals of DreamHack Atlanta. Here it is, game number 5 on Inside and Out. In the top right for Onside Gaming, he is Solar.
And his opponent, bringing out some spicy build orders in this series so far. He is Maru.
It only gets spicier. Scoville level, hitting the flat line. You got
I still can't get over the fact that Katz was making the pro gamers eat those really spicy, and then he did not eat them himself.
I know, right?
He's like, yeah, yo, I'll have the nice ones, you know, the nice and gentle ones, and then the actual hot ones apparently he skipped. Anyways, what do you have right here, Zombie Grip?
2 racks if third SCV's not coming out.
This is a funky spot as well, right? It's like right in between, like, okay, maybe the Overlord's actually going to scout it, but Solar definitely has gone for a variety of scouts with those OVs. He's actually going to spot it relatively early,
right?
But that's still a wall off right there.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the benefit of this, right? Is that the Overlords either one, go the 2 directions at like angles, so they don't scout it anyways, or 2, they do scout it, but then you can't pull drones against it. You're going to get out microed. So Maru kind of ensures that this is going to get up and running. But with this heads up, Solar, you know, can now plan his execution. So
I love this from Maru, though. Maru's like, you know what? This is a big game. There's a lot on the line here. Let me go for a proxy Rex. He's known to do this, of course. He's never scared. The man doesn't really know what, you know, nerfs are, I don't think. At least when you see his player cam, he always looks rock solid. Drones are pulled, and that's mostly just to push back the Marines once they do pop out, and there's the first one. Jimmy is ready to work on those workers, but honestly, the drones are pretty strong.
Well, here's the thing about the wall off, right? Like, yes, it stops a full surround, but there's no cleverness to it as far as where the Marines can pocket themselves.
Jimmy, no.
Which is sometimes able to happen on other places to put the 2 racks. But once you have a few more Marines, the drones can no longer combat them, so they have to be pulled back, and the question is, you know, does the bunker get up or not? In this case, the bunker already about 75% done. You're going to have the micro battle commence, but that SCV still healthy on the bunker. Should be able to finish it. Now the question is, do Marines get inside of it? Is Solar is trying to go for this surround. If he loses too many drones right here, that could already spell disaster for the Zerg, and he is yet to get the full surround. He's not going to nip this in the bud. There are going to be more Marines on the way. But the bunker, maybe that has to be salvaged, and that could still be something going well for Solar.
Yeah, the Queen ready to body block against those Marines as well. Bunker still have quite a bit of HP, but I really like what Solar is doing here overall, though. That bunker is nice, he says, but what about that? Just don't let your units even get close to it. Nice zoning right there from the Zerg, and we're going to transition.
Yeah, that ended up being excellent zoning. So again, if he had lost, let's throw out there 6 or 7 drones killed, then you'd be kind of like, oh no, this game fun. Good. But I think that's acceptable. Stopping the bunker from doing more damage. Maru was not fully committed to this anyways. It was just a 2 racks, but
yeah, getting the Overlord right there. Get popped into the lava. It's actually quite annoying here. Solar is not in a particularly great position here either. Every little bit of damage here counts for sure, but yeah, Maru is going to have to come up with something on the back of this as he now goes for a starport as well. One of the barracks is going to be a massive Overlord as it flies into the main base, and good luck trying to hide anything right now if you're Solar.
Yeah, that's the downside here. Solar's not going to be able to hide anything. So often, especially it feels like for Korean Terrans and especially Maru, the follow-up to a 2 racks is going to be a Hellion drop, and that is exactly what it's going to be. There's just, I mean, there's not... Solar could try to time out a Ling run by, but since he's heavily delayed his speed with the opening, they're going its way. You're not going to really worry so much about a run by while you've picked up your Hellions in the medevac. Plus, you're typically going to make more than 4 Hellions, so 4 go in the medevac, okay, sure. But then 2 to 4 more come out to help defend against any potential run by. So basically, this just keeps the ball in Maru's court, right? He can actually continue being aggressive without really too much fear. Oh, it's going to be a Hellbout attack. Well, then for sure, he's going to want to try and even maybe end this game very shortly.
Yeah, he's going to test the waters first and foremost with 3 of those Hellions. 3 is perfect for sniping those drones in one go. There is, however, a good amount of creep inside of the main base of the Zerg already, so I don't expect this is going to be able to get too much damage done. Link speed is finishing up, though. It's actually kind of late. Yeah, maybe he can get there right before the Zerglings can get in the right place. Oh, my God.
Oh, wow.
There's one tiny little bit of dark space here. Well, you know what? This may actually work out much better than I anticipated.
already 6 drones is nice because he didn't lose anything for it, right? At worst, if Maru was a worse player, he was going to mess up his macro, but he did not. So the armory's done. More Hellions have been made. Even the Marines coming along here. Solar still droning.
Yeah.
Does not anticipate such a committal. This could be disaster for the Zerg.
He's up 2 more right here. He's going for a cheeky creep tumor. He thinks he's playing against a macro Terran here, but in reality, Maru is ready to go for another push. It's going to be just Queens and Zerglings. Now, there's not that many Queens available, but they have a little bit of energy. I mean, there's another one coming from the main base. Zerglings going around the back. Medivac gets sniped out of the sky. This is, well, once again, excellent crisis management here from Solar, but does he actually have enough?
It's still unideal, right? Because he did have a little bit of that shock. His Queens weren't already prepared and actually shooting down what they can before Maru even really engaged. So it's still awkward, and it is distracting, as Solar is also having to handle the Liberator in the main base. Actually does handle it pretty quickly. Hopefully pulls these drones away as well. We'll lose that last Queen, but this will not kill Solar. It just kept them a little bit down in that supply. But right back in the droning afterwards.
Yeah, that Liberator has been obnoxious, right? As soon as it moves, the Spore Crawler, that is, the Liberator also sieges up again in a different location, just constantly forcing little bits of lost mining time, right? It doesn't seem big, it doesn't seem to achieve too much, but there it is. Thank you to the Observer for showing us the exact income difference that makes. A lot of the workers here that Solar has, they just simply have not been mining, and even though, well, the Liberator is not going to be able to get back home, it certainly got a lot of work done.
It did, yeah. That wasn't a complete shutdown. That wasn't just a, lol, why are you hellbat all into me? Let's go ahead and push this away. That took some time. That took some losses. Even, you know, direct losses, but also a little more kind of indirect. Something like the Queens not being on the front lines, creep spreading, or injecting perhaps. Maybe they missed some. Maybe even these Lings supposed to destroy the rocks a little bit faster. That type of thing also gets affected with the pressure lasting a long time.
I'm a little surprised by the fact that Maru decides to go for this strategy in the final game in the potential elimination match.
Nah, it's Maru.
Yeah, it's Maru, I know, but like in my mind, he's always, you know, that stellar, strong macro Terran, right? At least that's what he likes to bring a lot of the time. Such a, probably best in class when it comes to playing macro. Anyways, here we go with the 8 drones going down in the main base. Is he going to be able to get those? No, he's not going to be able to pick them up, and that means that 4 Hellions end up, well, morphing into Hellbats, and eventually they're going to go down. That's
kind of clever. It does work out in terms of the Hellbats again, elongating the amount of time that Solar has to actually deal with this. So it's still maybe not the beautiful shots on the drones, only getting 8, and then the complete loss of the drop, but kind of doing as much as possible. That is something Maru will do. Solar is now comfortably at 76 drones, so there's been those bumps, there's been those times where he had to pause and deal with something seriously, but he really should not have been threatened by a real attack that could kill him. So he does get the drones up to a seriously good number. 75 is maybe not the absolute best, but it's pretty good. Yep. And Maru only just now sets down his 3rd CC, only just now really getting prepared for more of those pushes that can actually kill the Zerg.
Solar making this transition towards the mid-game that we've seen him play time and time again so far in this series and in this tournament. He's got a good amount of creep spread, especially on the left and in the middle section of this map, and now he's putting down some tumors as well over at his newly acquired 4th base. It's going to be important because, well, now Maru is going to start piling on the pressure, right? He's done this time and time again where he's constantly hitting his opponent, but honestly, I'm liking this position here from Solar a lot. He's in a, he's defended pretty much all of the aggression here from the opponent well enough. And he's at a good amount of economy, maybe not as much as fast as he would have liked, but he's finding himself in a good spot overall. If he can shut down this attack in particular, I think he's going to be in a wonderful position.
It's not like Maru streamlined his build order to get to this point, right? He also had to throw in the Hellbats and the drops and all that to actually get somewhere. So it's not the most punchy perhaps, but it is still intimidating, especially if this creep spread is gone, which of course it is gone in an instant. And now he can try and abuse this bridge. Once again, Maru opting for the fast 8 racks before any additional factories or command center is going to look to keep up this aggression. Remember last time this happened, Solar was able to kind of get that surround and really stop it hard enough that he had time to breathe. This time could be very different.
All right, bailing speed is done. Here we go. Solar is ready to engage as he's also going for a big counterattack, actually. He decides to move back for just a moment, allowing the Terran player to get very close to that 4th hatchery, but he's losing SCVs at home right now.
Yeah, that's a big problem. Last time there was a couple of Marines that stopped this from doing big damage. 14 SCVs go down, and, well, Solar actually brings us back. They try and go for a big surround, a lot less creep spread to work with. The hatchery does also fall in the midst of this, and now Maru is completely surrounded, has a couple of medevacs to pick up these last few Marines and continue with at least some form of aggression, but actually only 6 survive. These ones are left to die. They're all Sarah Kerrigan. I'm sorry.
Too soon. Spoiler, what?
Too soon.
It's only been 20 years. I didn't finish that one yet.
I didn't get to that point. Anyways, more Marines are already here because we are rallying through them through the middle of the map with all of those barracks pumping. You don't really get all that much time to breathe, and that's all you really need is the Terran, is a couple of Marines to live. And if you don't have Banelings, you don't have a chance in this matchup. Solar is again on the ropes in Game 5 versus Maru, and it looks like Maru is once again going to get the better of this Zerg player. Solar plays so damn well for so long, but Maru is just too much of a king to topple.
Solar bleeding out as many units as possible right now. He's trying to get them all out of those cocoons as quickly as he can. But does he eventually have enough to push all of this back? I'm with you here. It's going to be very difficult to break that. There's still a huge Terran train, though, moving through the center of the map. Just trying to bring everything across. The fact that all of the creep is gone at this point, right, is super difficult. And that's exactly what Maru is setting up for right now. He knows that his opponent can't properly engage with those slow Hydralisks. I mean, he's going to finish up Muscular Augments here eventually, but just a bunch of Hydras versus Siege Tanks and Marines? I don't think it's going to be enough.
I don't think it's going to be enough. Just shy of it, especially because Maru finishes up his 2-2 upgrades. And with the continued rallying of the Terran units, that is going to be it. Maru takes game number